Welcome to the Infidel, podcast of the damned, the weekly companion show of the Infidel news. Join us as we discuss this week's religious accounts from an atheist perspective. From Timbuktu to Toledo, from Kathmandu to Canada, from Bangalore to Bangladesh. We deplore, you deride. And here are your hosts, Dave and Nicole.
Hello and welcome to show number 24 of the Infidel podcast of the damned. I'm your host, J. David Core, atheist, author, and adjustable Applejack. And with me is my co-host, Nicole Samard. Hello, Nicole.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Also joining us today are Christian YouTubers, Losoyo, also known as James, and his partner, Mike. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, what is up?
Today is Wednesday, April 15th, 2015, and we're going to be discussing the upcoming episodes of the Infidel News, which will run beginning Monday, April 20th, 2015. Show notes for all of our podcasts can be found at infidelpodcast.blogspot.com. And so, as this is a different show for us, a little bit slightly different show. For one thing, we have 4 people in the windows instead of 3 or 2, as we have in the past. And another slight difference is that those, for the first time, we have guests on the show who are not atheists. So welcome to uncharted territory, guys.
So does this mean you're going to have to change your podcast to the damn slogan?
No, it's still 4.
I just want to make sure it's not of the damn, but it's for the.
It's for the.
Okay.
We're infidels
Yes,
to
it's
some
for
of
the damned.
Yeah.
But I've always said that the way we present the news and our choice of news can be of interest to anybody of any religion or without religion. So we'll be running a test tonight, and you guys can tell me if I'm right about this.
Yeah, the way we write the stories is we try to keep it neutral. A lot of our audience actually will comment on the fact sometimes that we're too neutral. They think we should be a little bit more aggressive, but we don't really see any reason for that. We want the stories to be stories that could be watched by anybody from any belief set and appreciated for what they are, not for the slant that we put on them. So anyway, you two gentlemen are partners in a couple of YouTube channels, right?
Yeah, we're part. Well, what we're mainly focused on right now is the Fat Overlords channel, which is a channel that brings together both Christians and atheists, and we put up all kinds of different content, challenging all the ideas. Generally, religion. We do get into politics every so often, and that's about it. I don't think we get into baking or anything unless Michael gets hungry. He likes to talk about alcohol a lot. So, our main focus right now is our podcast called the Skeptics and Believers Podcast. It happens on Sundays, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard on youtube.com/Losoyo, L-O-S-O-Y-O. That's that Overlords channel. And we invite all kinds of people, kind of like yourself. We invite all kinds of people to come talk. We've had Steve Shives, Matt Dillahunty, upcoming we got Bionic Dance, and I'm hoping to get Dillahunty next month too. So we like to have a lot of fun, and I was really excited to be on a channel that seems similar to what we do.
So what you do I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Oh no, I just want to emphasize because while we do have on and engage in debate with as many differing viewpoints as we can, the ones James mentioned are all atheists. We've also, like recently, we've had G-Man on a couple of times. We invite Christians on, particularly Christians with a more controversial viewpoint, or at least something that we disagree with, so that we debate almost anything. And we are equally hated by the atheist and Christian communities, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, that's quite an accomplishment.
Among those Christians that you said you've had on, like you said you had G-Man, have you ever had Gary Moore?
Nope, just G-Man. That's it. We've actually on that. I haven't had a confirmation, but I am trying to get like Eric Hovind on as well. Ironically, it's harder to get Christians on because there's not. I think they prefer just to go after straight atheists. They don't like a channel that actually has Christians on it as well. But we're definitely bringing more other Christians on as well. But yeah, I mean, we've had like G-Man and a guy named Brendan Larson, who's a presuppositionalist. Mm-hmm. That was fun, watching Michael get destroyed by presuppositionalism. So I always enjoy when he loses.
What about other other religious viewpoints, like Muslims or Scientologists or Christian Scientists.
We haven't had any on yet, but that's not to say that we're not open to, as much as I'm sure you know, there's not exactly a huge Muslim or Scientologist presence on YouTube as far as people. I mean, you can find Scientology videos, but you're not going to find individuals
they're
just out there.
Yeah, they're not allowed. They're not allowed to use the internet.
And same goes with Muslims. There aren't very many out there. There aren't even very many Jews out there that are willing to get into the discussion. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a shame to offer a different and unique viewpoint than just hearing the Christian and atheist perspective.
Right. Well, for Halloween, we decided we wanted to have a pagan on the show, and I tried to. We actually did get a pagan to be on the show, but when it came time to do the show, her audio didn't work. And back then, we were trying to do our shows live. And we don't do that live anymore because we had too many technical problems. We just quit doing it. And also timing is an issue because, some people work in California and some people, I don't know how you guys do a live show every week. We asked her I asked around and I found somebody. So that's how, and she's not a YouTube person, but she agreed to be on the podcast. So you can find people of different persuasions that aren't necessarily YouTubers. If you want to try to go that route, that's because I had success with that.
Well, we definitely are reaching out. Again, our spheres are generally Christian and atheist. So there's a pagan YouTuber by the name of Niece, I believe, that wants to come on and have a conversation. No, she's Wiccan. That wants to have a conversation.
Well,
it's really just
Wiccans are pagan, but not all. It's like all ducks are all ducklings are ducks, but not all ducks are ducklings. Right. Yeah, all Wiccans are pagan, but not all pagans are Wiccan.
Right, which is why I did that. But it's just about getting outside of our sphere of influence and such. And we're still trying to build up, so that's why I haven't really focused on going outside of Christianity or atheism. I'm hoping to branch out and get the president on one day. I'm sure. I feel confident he's going to respond to my email and want to join our podcast.
You know, I heard that if you just land a gyrocopter along the White House, you can get his attention.
You can get his attention. Can you get him on your podcast?
just run straight into the White House. I heard that gets favorable results and everything, and you can actually make it in. So,
yeah, if you want a politician, you could ask Rand Paul. He'll do anything right now. He's looking for all the press he can get.
On a couple of shows, I honestly would love to get him on at some point, especially with everything that's been going on. That would be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
how about Ted Cruz and his dad Raphael?
What? How about them?
Having them on your show, that would be good.
If any of the declared candidates wanted to come on to our show, we would be more than happy to have them, let them say their piece, and then probably rip them to shreds on something.
Mm-hmm.
And then never have them on again. We would never accept our invite again, I'm sure, after that.
Yeah.
And what's the biggest objective, your number one objective you're trying to achieve with your channel?
To take over the world. We're fat. We want to be overlords. That's why we're fat overlords. I mean, just thought it was pretty self-explanatory.
Seems legit. Actually, this is what we do for a living. We don't have any other jobs. We specifically run this podcast, and it's for me. I mean, me and Michael come from different reasons, I'm sure, but for me, it's just having ideas against themselves and learning. Like, a lot of people get upset when we have G-Man on, or when we'll have someone else like Bionic Dance on, or things of that nature. And I like ideas being put against ideas, because if you ignore them, they have an unfortunate ability to grow, like Holocaust deniers. When they ignored it to begin with, now there's an actual movement.
Mm-hmm.
People believe 9/11 was an inside job. It's just, I love having ideas against it, and I've changed ever since. When I started on YouTube, I wanted to get ideas, and I started as a fundamentalist Christian, and now because of the ideas and everything, I've moved far, far away from that. So I like having the ideas against each other. I like having a spot where people can come, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, we plan on traveling and everything. It's just something that I enjoy doing.
Yeah, I saw back in October that you had put up a video about why about your personal issue with the statement "all babies are atheists." I watched that video the other day, and it was I liked the way you presented your argument. It was very calm, rational, well thought out. It wasn't an insult to anybody whose position is different. And it was when I saw it, I was like, and I saw then I saw somebody had I don't know if more than one person did, but at least one person did a response video to it. And I think because of the way you presented it, they were respectful back. Whereas a lot of Christian videos, the atheist community a lot of times will be very rude back to the Christian because the Christian presents their argument so arrogantly and stupidly, if that makes sense, that it feeds into the atheist response video being even bigger on top of that. And
I don't think it's a big secret that there's a lot of hate on both sides of the so-called great debate. And unfortunately, when you have two sides that have as much animosity towards each other as many Christians and atheists do have at each other, many atheists look at Christians as something that Christianity is something they escaped from or something that they found oppressive in their youth and that they've rejected. Well, many Christians see atheists as a threat to their very way of life. And
they should.
I don't think that it's entirely accurate. Because,
yeah, it's not.
I hear commonly, atheists talking about the horrible fundamentalist family they came from. But let's face it, fundamentalists are a small segment of Christianity, and so
Yeah, but it's a large number of the more vocal atheists. I think there's atheists who are out there from everywhere, but the ones who come from fundamentalists or cults or really like a strict Catholic upbringing, etc. They're the ones who are the most strident. And
I think that there's a good reason for that too. Is that there was I wish I could remember his name now, but an atheist on YouTube said that what you get if you get a homophobic jerk to become a Christian, a homophobic Christian. You get a loudmouth group of Christians and somebody gets out of it, and now you got a loudmouth atheist. And it's not necessarily that they're bad people. It's just that that's how they were taught to be. These extreme Christian groups tend to be the loudest, vocal groups, and so that's how these people grow up thinking that's how you express yourself, and they just reverse it right back on them. Unfortunately, this just fuels the fire and gets the hate level to accelerate. As the debate as goes on, it just turns into name calling and pure hatred. And Christians, especially these fundamentalist Christians, will try to hide behind the veneer of, "Oh, I don't hate you. This is what the word says." But then they're giving a very twisted interpretation of Scripture so that they can basically tell you go to hell, quite literally, and with a smile on their face saying that they're trying to do it in love, which is a load of crap in my opinion.
Yeah, anytime. Okay.
No, I didn't mean that. The only thing I was going to say is I think Matt Dillahunty had it right when he said going from an atheist to a Christian didn't make him smarter. His IQ didn't change. You
mean the other way around?
Yeah, I would go one further. I would say that when he went from when anyone really goes, generally, when you go from being a Christian to an atheist, the core of who you are generally won't change, I don't think. As Michael said, if you're a jerk as a Christian, you're most likely going to be a jerk as an atheist. I can see where someone might be really mad at what happened to them, like when they feel lied to, so there are exceptions to the rule. But I think the core of a being doesn't necessarily change, and it goes both ways. So if you have an atheist, so let's say the amazing atheist became the amazing Christian, right? I don't think that he would start being any better or worse than who he is. I think the core of who you are stays regardless.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's why you see. Ironically, go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to ask you something else, but finish what you were saying, and then I'll go on because it's a different topic.
Okay. The only thing I was going to say is ironically, because here's the thing. For the most part, you kind of made a joke on how it can impact, and I agree that religious people can impact atheists in quite a devastating way if you just look at homosexual marriage and everything. But for the most part, Michael and myself historically, we've looked at as people as just people. So you're an atheist, and we've been religious, so let's just have a conversation. That's not as impactful. We want to get to know the person beforehand, and because of that viewpoint, a lot of YouTube Christians have this personal jihad against. We get more hate from Christians than we do from atheists, and the reason is because we treat atheists like normal human beings, people we'd meet on the street, and so they treat us with the same respect back. And
with the notable exception of drunken peasants.
That's been a fun little thing. Though, thank you for all of the views and subscribers. So please continue to hate on us if you want to. But yeah, with a few exceptions, generally. So, but that's all I have to say.
Okay, and Losoyo, you said that you went from being a fundamentalist to a more liberal Christian. What kind of arguments changed your mind?
So here's the fun thing about YouTube, right? So I don't necessarily like defining Christianity as conservative, fundamentalist, or fundamentalist, conservative, moderate, liberal, and stuff. It's a term that you can use to kind of describe on YouTube and kind of in the world, just so people know where you stand ideologically. But so moving from a fundamentalist down, I think it was, well, first off, it was just talking with people and just seeing who they are and seeing how they're doing. Like, I remember when I was in church as a little kid, there was a rally on DC, and it was a rally of atheists. I don't know what the rally was, but the pastor was talking about it. And he was talking about how I forget how he phrased it, but it was in a really scary way. The godless were truly marching on DC. So in church in the past, it's always been this us versus them, and the godless, just how horrible. So just meeting people, treating people like people, and then for instance, when it comes to things like one of the ideas and such was impressing my ideology upon other people through the government, right? So homosexuality, when I first started, should be banned, should be against the law in the U.S., not because I hated homosexuals, but I wanted to impose my Christianity on the U.S., because the U.S. obviously was a Christian nation, right? But the more I talked and the more I researched and the more people guided me that showed that, the U.S. is a secular nation. They may have had Christians or deists that helped bring it together, but we're a plurality, and that's what makes us strong. So it would be ideas like that, the Bible being the inerrant Word of God. We don't know all of the words in the Bible itself. I didn't know that when I first joined YouTube. Even if we know up to 99%, which is what people say, I've heard it anywhere from 96 to 99, but even if we knew 99%, that's still 1% of the Bible that we don't know. So that's an extremely insane amount of faith to call the Bible inerrant, especially when there's so many different versions of it, and it's been translated into English when that wasn't its original. And I think there are good things that you can't explain in the Bible itself. So when I first came on, the Bible's in the inerrant Word of God, and then someone will come up and be like, all right, so how do you feel about the fact that it, and Michael disagrees with me on this, but how do you feel about the fact that it endorses slavery? Or how do you feel on the fact that it has you killing children, or has a poem dedicated to killing children, right? So, those are the ideas. I probably went too long explaining, but that's what changed my mind.
Well, you, Michael, did interacting with atheists and different other people with different philosophies, did that change your attitude?
Oh, absolutely. I would, if I were going to credit any individual there are two people that really shaped my theological stance on things. One is Pastor Samuel Huddleston, who, in my opinion, is a great man of God, and the other is King Heathen, unfortunately somewhat retired YouTuber who had quite a following back when I was a lot of long conversations about stuff, and he was no dummy. He's one of those atheists that does his research, that knows the answer to any question he's going to ask before he asks it. And he's the one that started challenging me on things to make me realize a lot of stuff that I had preconceived notions about Christianity were just plain false, and got me into digging it in myself. I started studying Greek and Hebrew because of King Heathen. I have a much deeper understanding of the scriptures because of this atheist online who is basically not going to just say, try to tell me what to think as much as challenge me and say that you may be wrong. That's one thing that Christianity lacks, unfortunately, is a truly open, skeptical viewpoint on the Bible. You've got to, there are things in the Bible that we don't know. One fun quote that people like to mention is the fact that there are unicorns in the King James Bible. The term that's actually used for unicorn was translated in the Latin Vulgate to unicornus, which is actually the proper name, the Latin name for rhinoceros. However, the original text, they are not sure exactly what it refers to. They just, based on the context, seems to be fit the description of a rhinoceros. But then somebody just kept the word unicorn from the Latin, and it became unicorn in the King James Bible, and of course that's a big joke to some people. Things like that are important to know, to understand that while people who are atheists and secularists don't have a problem admitting that they don't know the answer to everything. If you say, where did the universe come from, they'll say, we don't know. Well, there are also things in the Bible that are unknown, and things about God we don't know, and Christians need to be able to have the freedom to say that, and to approach their religion honestly, intellectually honestly, and understand that there are holes, and those holes are probably due to human error and human corruption over time. Now, of course, the atheists would argue this because, it's a made-up concept, and if they're right, they're right. But if God is real and Christianity is, at least at its core, true, then I think that there is ample evidence that it's been at least somewhat corrupted over the centuries, and we need to recognize that and try to take that into account, especially when we're trying to be really dogmatic about things.
That's always been a philosophy in Islam. Actually, has always had the philosophy that the Bible was corrupted, and that's what the Quran. You have to learn it in Arabic so you can't corrupt it.
And people forget that Islam is closer to the modern age than it is to the original dates of the Bible. Islam is a fairly modern religion. I mean, the only major religion post-Islam is really Mormonism. If you want to consider Mormonism a breakaway religion from Christianity because they have their own holy text. And I think that that's a legitimate critique, is that there, because if you look at even what's chronicled in the Old Testament as far as the early Jews, there was corruption of the religion even in the Bible itself. I mean, you don't have to go any further than Exodus and the golden calf to know that it didn't take long before people were basically changing the religion to match whatever it is that they wanted at that time. And then fast forward to Christ, where Christ was basically his biggest opponents were the religious leaders who basically took a corrupted version of Judaism to the extreme. And Christ was like, no, you guys have missed it. You're so focused on the letter of the law, you forgot about the spirit of the law. And then fast forward, of course, to modern day, where Christianity in and of itself has become this incredible institution. The Catholic Church, for a fairly substantial period of time, pretty much ran Europe. And, that's, the church, unfortunately, is quite self-serving and kind of makes sense. Any organization is not going to do things that are detrimental to that organization. And the church is no exception. The church is run by people, and people are fallen. And so when I don't have a problem with church, I don't have a problem getting together once a week with people of a similar like-mindedness and celebrating, worshiping, or if it's an atheist organization, not worshiping, but just having a good time and fellowship together. But you have to be very careful about turning into a dogmatic, self-serving organization, which I think, unfortunately, a lot of churches have become.
Yeah, that's one thing I think a lot of atheists will agree with you on is that in general, religion itself, just like government itself, becomes a thing that serves its own end. No matter how noble the aspirations are to begin with, the kind of people who end up on top are the people who want to be on top.
Unfortunately, that's true, and the interesting thing is, I'm sure you've heard this a million times in your life, but there are many, particularly in the evangelical sect of Christianity, that will say that Christianity is not a religion, it's a relationship. And that's a lovely saying, and I honestly believe it's a true saying. It's that the religion of Christianity is a problem. A relationship with Christ, if you actually focus on what Christ taught and what Christ said and what Christ wants people to do, that's a really good thing. Whether you're secular or not, the whole idea of loving humanity on the level that he suggested. Could you imagine a world where everybody was a good Samaritan?
Well, and here's the thing too. It's people. Honestly, no matter what you do, what you believe in, or who you are, we as a species just want to find a way to separate each other and then find a way to gain power. Right? It doesn't matter what group you look at. All groups, humans as a species, it's just what we do. So some people use the Christian ideology to gain power and to impose their will. Some people use the Democratic Party. Some people use the Republican Party. I would say you could even see if you looked at atheist associations like Dave Silverman, the American Atheists or whatever. You can start to see how or atheism plus. Atheism Plus is a great example. You can see where people try to start to create their own group or their own thing, and then impose their will upon other people.
Is that still a thing? Is atheism? Is that still a thing?
It is. I don't think it's a big thing.
I didn't even know it was a thing anymore. I thought it died.
Well, I mean, no one's talking about it.
Right.
They still exist. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. The more atheism becomes prominent, the more you're going to start to see splinter groups try to gain power and to impose their will. Just like you see with religion, because it's what we do as a species. Unfortunately, it's just how we've evolved to work socially. It's to group and then to dominate. It's just what we do.
Yeah,
that reminds me of way back a long time ago when I was in high school, and our teacher was one of our teachers was teaching us
banging two rocks together.
A literary essay. Like as opposed to just a research paper, but a literary essay. It's a totally different style of writing. And the topic I developed in my essay was that the flag and history were the flag and nationalism were the enemies of humanity. And I got an A+ for it, and a nasty comment from the teacher who said that was a social bear.
Yeah, you're communist.
I don't know if I would say, I think that the problem stems from the old adage, birds of a feather. When you have a group of like-minded individuals of any ilk, it doesn't matter if we're talking about a political ideology or religion or anything else. When a group of people who have that common belief get together and they stay together, they tend to look at everybody outside of that belief as less than them. And you see this commonly in the Christians and atheist communities on YouTube, where you'll have atheist groups that will sit there and say that Christians are stupid because they're Christians. That Christianity is a mental disorder. All these lovely things that the extreme atheists tend to do. Christians, of course, do it in a holier-than-thou type attitude, condescending and threatening of fire and brimstone. But you also see it, for example, the Democrats and the Republicans. It's a classic example where, what's his name? Chris Christie was chastised by the Republicans because he said thank you to President Obama for helping out after the Jersey Shore got devastated. It's like you absolutely cannot say something nice about the opposition. And of course, the opposite would be true too. When was the last time you heard a Democrat say anything nice about a Republican, or a Republican say something nice about a Democrat? I'm not talking about people like on YouTube, some guy who might be a fair-minded, run-of-the-mill Democrat, but an official, an elected member of Congress. All they'll sit there and say is, I believe in a women's right to choose, while my opponent wants to slaughter people in wars and only cares about the rich. You never hear anything other than hyperbole.
That's because that's what works, though. In politics, that's what works.
That's an extension of that.
Yeah.
Where you have, and it's funny because while the Democrats and the Republicans hate each other and everything that each other stands for, the one thing they'll both say over and over is how awesome the United States is. And, and then we start looking down on the rest of the world. If there were other inhabited planets, I'm sure that as a planet, we would be looking down on other planets. And
those Klingons.
Yeah. So I think that it's an unfortunate part of human nature and something we have to fight. And that's one primary reason when I first started a channel on YouTube just for discussion. I called it Rational Roundtable, and I did it because my deepest wanting was to never have an echo chamber. I never wanted to have a bunch of people that agreed with me on everything, telling me how awesome I was. Because as soon as you get that, then eventually you start looking down on people. Eventually your group starts looking down on other groups. And you just begin this cycle. That's one of the reasons James and I like to talk to people, Christians, atheists, liberals, conservatives, anybody, but find something we have in common, find something we don't.
So all that to say,
Well, actually,
Michael agrees with me.
Actually, I was a subscriber of the Rational Roundtable, and I never even if you haven't put out any new video, uploaded any new video in a long time, I never unsubscribed, so it's still one of those things that's still there.
Well, I am planning on posting there again once we get the Fat Overlords stuff taken care of. That's going to be basically my springboard for commentary and stuff, but it'll be under the Fat Overlords umbrella. So don't unsubscribe yet. There will be content coming. I just don't know exactly when.
Well, yeah, and we need to continue doing content on Fat Overlords first, just because that's what we're trying to build. So a lot of the stuff is going to go there until we get that into a comfortable range. But it's growing really nice.
How many subscribers do you have there now?
We have well over 1,200.
That's good. That's a good number. Yeah.
A lot of them are thanks to our fine friends at Drunken Peasants.
Yeah.
I constantly have to listen to that name now. But for those who don't know, we piss off the Drunken Peasants, and by God, you can get the attention. If you get their attention, you get a lot of attention. You get them out. But yeah, Michael hates the Drunken Peasants.
Yeah. But isn't the attention that you get, isn't like a lot of it's trolls, isn't it?
Oh yeah, over 3,000 comments. 1,500 of them are people telling me to go die or commit suicide.
Yeah, I posted.
And I don't get me wrong. The Drunken Peasants, I do think falls into one of those. A lot of their fanboy. I've never seen them really disagree on a topic. I've never seen them have a real debate on anything, and they have a rabid fanboy base. Now, a lot of this is because The Amazing Atheist is one of the Drunken Peasants. And so when they actually mentioned us, and they put a link to our live show on their Facebook, we got inundated with, it was the highest viewed video we put out, and, which I thank them for the views. And of course, like James was saying, thousands of comments, mostly trolls. But the beautiful thing about it is that not every drunken peasant subscriber is a ravaged fanboy. And obviously some of those people that came over liked what they saw. And our subscriber base went up as a result. And not every comment was a negative comment. Granted, they were, most of them were. But you hear these occasional, oh, well, I think they made a reasonable point on that. And that's high praise from someone who's coming from another show specifically to attack you.
Yeah, all three of their subscribers did that.
Yeah, I had.
Shall we go on?
Yeah, let's go ahead and go to the first story.
Anything else you'd like to discuss, or shall we go on?
No, well, there was nothing else I wanted. There was one thing I wanted to discuss, but we can either do it now or at the end of the show. But it's personal with you, Nicole. It's about your cousin's daughter, Hannah. Yes. Hannah. I don't know if Hannah Simard, Nicole's cousin's daughter, is in the Miss Universe competition in Canada.
Oh,
yeah, and you can vote for her online. There's like a voting thing where you can vote for her, and I'm going to be putting that in the show notes. So anybody who wants to vote for Nicole's very attractive cousin. So I think I was going to say, yeah, I think he's lying about them being related. Yeah.
Funny is I met James's family, and everybody in James's family looks just like him, just variants in like how tall and how fast and how thin. But they all look like the same guy, just warped in different ways. So, if you said that James had a sister in Miss Universe, I would be very happy. I don't think I met your sister.
It's his cousin. Yeah. His sister. Okay.
Thanks for the plug-in for my...
so done with us talking.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be the show now. I think we need to see your hot, what was it, niece, cousin?
Cousin, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should find that video.
Yeah.
I've seen that, and I'm sure they don't want to put that on there, but yeah. Okay.
So
here's the first story.
Okay.
Nicole's like, I hate this. I hate inviting these two. Never again.
Recently, several of Canada's highest-ranking Christians, led by the president of the Institute for Canadian Values, Charles McVety, released a statement voicing their concern that Christianity is under attack in the Great White North. The statement listed several specific examples to support their contention, including the fact that a Christian college, Trinity Western University, cannot get accreditation of its law school program. Also, the initiation of a movement to promote diversity, which has the support of 72 Canadian companies, including DuPont, Dell, and Chevron, and a decision by the College of Physicians of Surgeons of Ontario, which would allow physicians to opt out of providing birth control and abortions based on religious convictions, yet would require them to refer patients to doctors who are willing to offer these services. At a news conference on Parliament Hill, McVety said, "Unfortunately, Christians in this country find themselves under attack. This is a violation, and we are calling on the Canadian government to stop this type of violation across this country." Citing Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedom, the president and founder of the Bill Prankard Evangelical Association said, "While other groups are being granted more and more rights, we've been losing ours. We are saying enough is enough. We cannot be silent anymore." Andre Schouten, a lawyer representing the group, said they are seeking a statement of support from the federal government because most of the issues they have are at the local and provincial level. Said Schouten, apparently oblivious to his own Orwellian subtext, "Those levels of government also have to step up and be willing and ready to play fair with religious groups, including, and especially, I think, Christian groups."
So, as the sole Canadian, let me start by saying that this guy is a very, very, very small minority in Canada. We have very few people who are fundy wannabes over here.
Right. Well, actually, and your Supreme Court today decided that they can no longer begin council meetings with a prayer.
Yep.
Yeah, that was just today. I don't know if you heard that or not. But what I liked about this story was the fact that there are people like that in Canada, because it makes me feel better to be an American.
Well, my thing is, what did he say? He was like, he thought that they were being religiously persecuted. By the way, I love it. I love it when people talk about losing the ability to be bigots and then calling it right. But he said that they had an issue where if they didn't want to do it, they had to refer them to someone who was willing to do it, and he was upset about that. Has he ever went to the U.S.? Because that you have to do it. So if he's upset about that, man, I would not at any point suggest that he goes down to the United States, especially when it comes to medical treatment.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's ironic.
I gotta say, the thing I found most interesting about the whole story was his eyes. His eyes looked like they were about 3 inches across, and that someone was pointing a gun at his head.
Who are you talking about? The newsreader?
Yeah, the guy that he's like
that was our newsreader.
Yeah, that's part of the show. So
there's a story. Okay, is that
wait
your guy?
Wait to insult the show, dude. Thanks for having Christians on, because they're going to insult your show. That's exactly what he just. That's exactly.
That's JP. That's JP. It's his very first show with us.
One of the best hosts, I dare say.
All right. No. Here's the thing, JP. I'm sure he's a fine guy, but he looked like he was reading, and
he looks scared. He'll get better.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Is that when you're new at that, you can't help it. Especially, you see your eyes tracking whatever it is that he's actually reading. He'll get better at that, to read with his peripheral without moving his eyes and stuff.
Hey, Michael.
Michael,
what do you think about the story?
Yeah.
The news story. What was your opinion on that?
As an American, as soon as he said the Great White North, I tuned out. So
it's like,
I'm sorry, I tuned out.
Well, our next story is about Canada too. So
no. Actually,
aren't they a state?
I thought Canada was a state, but
yeah, it's like
in all fairness, I think that I don't know what the rules are in Canada. So are they saying, are you required, if you're a doctor, to have to perform abortions no matter what kind of doctor you are?
No.
You're required, if you don't want to perform the abortion or some other procedure like that you might consider to be objectionable for religious reasons, you have to refer them to somebody who will do it.
Okay.
And this guy was objecting to that. He was objecting even to that.
Yeah, that seems a little far-fetched. I was going to say, if the rule was going to say that you had to perform these procedures, I could see how someone who honestly was opposed to abortion but wanted to help people through the medical sciences would be in quite a conundrum, because they can't do what they want to do to help people. But if you could just refer those people away and say, look, I can't do it, but go to this clinic over here and they'll help you out, and that's okay. I honestly don't see what the problem is.
Yeah, I don't see why he's getting upset. That seems unreasonable to me. I think they because I think that's unreasonable to be upset about that.
Well, as I said earlier,
I think it's awesome that they can. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
As I said earlier, he's a part of a tiny minority in Canada.
Right. Well, I mean, I wish we had those laws here. I think that would be extremely fair to do.
If it's one guy, that's still like 20% of Canada, right?
So first you insult their caster, and then you insult the country of which one of them lives. So thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Remember, Skeptics and Believers podcast. We're open to anybody.
Let's put it this way: when I was on your one time, I was on one of your hangouts, and I was having a whale of a time picking on James. So it's no problem.
Well, James, trust me, James has had his fair share of picking on Canada. But when Americans pick on Canada, it's like picking on your little brother. We do it out of love and just because we can, because we know there's not a damn thing Canada can do to us.
Actually, we sold you an awful lot of oil.
Yeah. Keep on saying that's a lot of oil. You understand that all the oil you sold us in a year, we burn in like one day.
Yeah.
You know,
Let's be honest, it's our oil anyway. If it's on the North American continent, as Americans, we obviously own it. That's what I was taught in public school.
Yeah.
Basic.
But I had poutine for dinner today, so I'm eternally grateful to Canada for that.
Except
I've heard it's really good, but I've never had it.
It's good. Poutine.
you didn't
It's
have real
French
poutine, did you?
I didn't have real poutine because I couldn't get cheese curd. I made my own cheese curd by mixing cottage cheese and mozzarella. But
How is that making cheese curd?
it's cheese and it's curd.
How is that not making it? That's what I'm saying.
Well, the thing is, the cheese
I didn't have any
curds.
sirloin steak, so I took this chuck roast and this pork chop and I smashed them together. Same thing, right?
Basically.
But the thing is, cheese curds, like the way that's used in poutine, it's actually cheddar cheese. But the thing is, cheddar cheese, before you see it in a block, it's a whole bunch of cheese curds soaking, floating around in a milk way. So, and then they just press it into a block.
Cheese, except that it's not doesn't have the bacteria culture in it.
Mm-hmm. So
I've had cheese before. I just never had poutine.
So
well,
what it is all you do is you take French fries, some fresh French fries, you put the cheese curds on top, and then some gravy.
Oh, so what you call poutine, I just call breakfast.
Yeah.
We call it a great Southern meal.
We are the fat overlords, So.
Exactly.
Since we're having nothing to do with the actual news story itself, something fun. Before we started doing this full time, my boss was formerly a French Canadian. She moved down to the U.S. and she was talking about two things. First off, she had a flask that she literally had maple syrup in. It was one of the weirdest things. And what was funny is if you weren't on the team, if they passed, they might see her take a flask out and take a drink of it, which was awesome. But beyond that, the Maple Reserve, like we have the National Gas Reserve. From what she was telling me, Canada has a Maple Reserve. Like you guys rely on that income and everything, so you have a reserve of maple syrup or maple that you have in the back. I thought that was
unrefined maple.
Wouldn't it? Yeah, it would go rancid after a while. You couldn't keep it.
No, maple syrup lasts forever.
Really?
No, yeah, but their economy. What she was telling me. What she was telling me is the economy so relies on it that they do. They keep
Canadian economy relies on maple syrup.
Dude, that's what she was telling me.
I thought you just exported moose meat and snow.
Yeah, well, no, actually, what is it? Just because I want to say it, but there's a state. I have a friend in the U.S. She woke up this morning with to 8 inches of snow. And that's April 15th.
She said, thanks, Canada.
Yeah.
Thanks, Canada.
Anyway, let's go on to the second story.
I dare say this is the best show you've ever had so far.
For those in our audience unfamiliar with the personage of Conrad Black, a moment of introduction. Conrad Black, also known as Baron Black of Cross Harbor KSG, is a publishing magnate who gave up on his Canadian citizenship in order to accept the British title. When he became a baron, he automatically became a member of the House of Lords. And to his list of credentials, one cannot forget to mention that Baron Black of Cross Harbor is a convicted felon who writes a weekly opinion article for a Canadian paper called the National Post. The Baron recently drew the attention of numerous atheist bloggers when he posted a pair of dubiously argued opinion pieces in support of a Christian apologist named Dr. John Lennox and in opposition to, quote, militant atheists such as Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins. In the second article, Black summarized his position as follows. Societies uninfluenced by serious considerations of a divine intelligence do not have as advanced and institutionalized notions of ethics, equity, and impartial justice as those that have been. That the atheist militants generally refuse to admit atheism too is a faith. That they cannot dispute the existence of spiritual forces in the world other than by consigning them to the hitherto unknown, or the conjurations of hysterics, the delusional, and charlatans. The article inspired Dawkins to tweet the following. Conrad Black seems to be at large again. Spot the factual errors, illogicalities, and failures to understand.
Yeah, so Conrad Black is like Canada's answer to Rupert Murdoch, basically. And he's out there. That guy's out there. But the way he wrote that article, the writing was so dense and convoluted. His sentences really went. He put so many ideas into one sentence that none of them made an argument. He really didn't make any arguments other than to just use put a bunch of ideas together.
Oh, was he trying to though? Was he trying to make? I mean, everybody has the right to give their opinion, and well, from an American standpoint, at least in my opinion,
those Canadians don't have the same rights as us.
Everyone has the right to be stupid if they want to be stupid. Was he trying to make a point, or was he just trying to get the religious vote?
Well, he's not running for anything.
I thought he was a politician. I thought that's what.
No, he's a Rupert Murdoch. He's a news magnate,
right?
Media mogul.
But you see, the thing, and granted, I don't know the details of the story, but what really stood out to me listening to it was the fact that he was defending something that John Lennox said. And I happen to be a huge fan of John Lennox. I don't know if you've heard him in debates and stuff. And I happen to know John Lennox is very good friends with people like Richard Dawkins. He holds them in highest regard. That he obviously disagrees with him on the God thing, and John is a fellow Oxford professor, I believe, and but to hear John's name drug into this seems really odd to me. Because I can't think of something John Lennox would say that some person could make into some huge controversial statement, because John's never, his theism that he argues is not like the Kent Hovind variety.
Right. Yeah, and then it wasn't even that there was a controversy to start with. The controversy is all from the two articles that Conrad Black wrote, and they're both like his main contention, that is his weakest contention from an atheist point of view, is just that atheism is a faith. And I doubt that John Lennox would even make that argument.
Go ahead.
Because but that was the argument that he was trying to. That's what Conrad Black was focused on. Is that these atheists are out there? They think they're better because they're above faith, but they have just as much faith. They just have faith in science and in the fact that and the idea that there's no God. So, but that's not even there's no truth to that on either end, as far as because faith is. I think even I'm sure that you two will agree with this. Faith is the trust in things unknown, right?
Well, the problem when you use terms like faith is faith has multiple meanings. You can, if you want to get pedantic about it, you can argue that any worldview requires some level of faith. Heck, just to believe that the world outside of yourself exists requires a certain level of faith, because we can all be brains in a jar and all that kind of thing. We make assumptions and we live upon those assumptions on a daily basis, no matter what our belief system may be. But I think really, if you want, is atheism a religion? Would be the question. Not does it require faith to say, hey, I'm an atheist? In a sense, yes, to take a position in the great debate requires that you believe that position, and you can't really prove it. So in a sense, you could say, yeah, there's some faith involved, but that doesn't make it a religion. That doesn't mean that there's a holy book of atheism. It doesn't mean that you get, you get together once a week with fellow atheists and give thanks to no God. So I think that.
But I think what you're doing there is you're taking the word faith and diminishing it a little bit when you do that, because when you say that, it takes faith. It takes faith to trust that the next second from now is going to exist. Right. Time could stop at this moment, but we just there's a certain amount of trust that it's going to continue, but that's not an irrational or unreasonable or unsupported trust. Whereas faith, when you in the big picture, faith, the belief that there is a God, that His Son is Jesus, any for example, because we're talking about any faith, is not based on the same kind of reasonable trust. I'm not saying that the trust that you have is unreasonable. I'm saying that it's a totally different kind of reason. So if I say that I trust that the nuclear atoms exist. There's like tons of evidence that it exist that they exist. It's not, the fact that the atomic bomb works, that the fact that we have nuclear energy, those basically prove that the theory is true. There's nothing like that you can take for religious ideas and say we can put it to this test, and there will be a concrete.
Let me ask you, just playing devil's advocate here for a second. Are you a physicist?
No.
Okay. Have you ever actually, observed an atom yourself? Have you?
No.
Of course not. No, and I know these are loaded questions.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, I am just playing devil's advocate. You can make the argument that everything you know about atoms, about the existence of atoms, is based on taking other people's works, other people's writings, taking them as true, which they would argue is a form of faith. Now, you would say that's completely rational as opposed to faith in this 2,000-year-old book of fairy tales may be irrational. But
I'm not saying it's irrational.
Well,
I'm not even saying it's irrational.
I think that you can argue there are similarities. Where I think the difference, but I don't think that either side should be using the term faith like it's either a compliment or an insult. It's simply a fact. If you believe something, you take it on faith, so what? Not everybody can be an expert in every field. And so you have to take the majority of everything that you do on faith.
The argument itself is silly. I hate
that. Right, I agree. I think it's a stupid argument. That's why I was going to say. There's the difference is whether or not it's a religion, not whether or not there's some kind of faith.
Right. But when Conrad Black is saying that atheists also have faith, when he's making that argument, he's basically saying that if he's not saying that it's the same thing, that faith in God is the same thing as faith in reason or science or faith in just existence or whatever, like the Descartes model, I think therefore I am, therefore existence happens. If he's not saying that those are equal, they're equivalent, then he has no point.
Well, but he absolutely is, and he's doing, because it's just a fancy way of an ad hom, because it's the last bastion. Religion is getting destroyed, absolutely destroyed, just across the board. I think when I looked it up, ironically Canada was one of the only countries that had a rise in evangelical Christianity. All other countries,
two people now.
Yeah, exactly. All other countries are having, including the U.S., especially Europe, are having a decline in religion overall. Either people are just saying that they're spiritual, they don't believe, or they're coming out as an atheist. And you see the fundamentalist, which is what this guy sounds like without knowing more about him, and they can't defend their faith. They can't defend things like a person walking on water or a person rising from the dead, because we simply can't prove that now. We can't reproduce that. So what you have to do is you have to attack the other person. It says, well, I have faith. Faith is becoming a bad word, so obviously you have faith as well. It's just a way of attacking. And again, I think it's stupid, because faith, when you look it up, the current usage of it is faith is defined as a belief, confidence, or trust in a person, object, religion, idea, or view, despite the absence of proof. And then it just comes down to, what's the definition of proof? Proof. It's a word game, and it's the last bastion of a dying breed, and that is fundamentalist religion, or Christianity in this instance.
All right. Well, that was very well said.
Coming from a Christian too, or
and
you're not a real Christian, you know that.
Yeah, but just as an ending touch about Conrad Black, just so that you'd know. He is a pompous ass who is who thinks a lot of himself, and when he was offered the lordship, to be part of the House of Lords in England, his dream came concrete. It became solid. And the thing is, in Canada, you cannot accept a title in another country and keep your citizenship. So he dropped his Canadian citizenship like a rock. And now that he's out of jail in the U.S., where's the first place he went to find refuge? It's in Canada.
Britain's really lowering its standards there, isn't it, for the Lord,
Yeah.
for the House of Lords? Oh.
And for those of you that are listening at home, please keep in mind that the Infidel podcast for the damned only states true facts. When he said that he was a pompous ass, it wasn't an ad hominem attack. It was a statement of simple fact that he is, in fact, a pompous ass.
That's what the company I used to work for, that's what we used to say. We used to, when we said negative things about the competition, as long as it's true, it's okay to say.
Hey, I'm a former journalist. I'm allowed to editorialize.
No, he seems like he's doing God's work, so, there we go. Expelling.
Yeah.
Hey, he'd get along with other YouTubers I know on YouTube.
Well, I wonder if he did any hard time with Ken Hovind. They were shanking each other,
Or
Yeah.
Good old Rand.
Did you, this is completely off topic, but speaking of shanking each other, if you happen to see the Justin Bieber roast on Comedy Central, there was a beautiful description of how to make a shank by Martha Stewart. And it was...
That was brilliant. And they made a lot of Canada jokes on that too, so that was good.
Well, Justin Bieber is Canadian.
So this time it's not, and he's an Ontarian too. Ugh. Here's the third story.
A Panama City church known as the Life Center, a spiritual community, thinks that it knows how to attract new members by promising spring break parties wherein the participants paint each other in the nude, with body paint, that is. They also offer slumber parties featuring the sexiest ladies on the beach, modeling lingerie. The event requires a $20 donation to attend, and apparently serve patrons alcohol that they bring themselves. Services are held 7 days a week. If all that sounds more like a nightclub than a church to you, you are in good company. The local police are investigating the matter, and the local tax assessor has already revoked the Life Center's tax-exempt status. It doesn't seem that the building has ever been operated as a traditional church. However, it is owned by a former pastor of another local church that otherwise was involved in controversy. Marcus Bishop was pastor of the Faith Christian Family Church when he was accused of providing marijuana to a minor and making sexual advances toward her. While at the church, Bishop had the use of a multi-million-dollar mansion that also came under tax scrutiny. In that case, Bishop and the church were allowed to keep their tax-exempt status back in 2006, but the church filed for bankruptcy in 2011 and put the property up for auction.
Now,
they found my church.
Yeah. The problem I have with this is Scientologists are considered a church, right? Mm-hmm. And they basically blackmailed their way into being considered a church. We have churches in this country that openly flout the rules. They have one Sunday a year where they
Freedom Friday, Freedom Sunday.
And they speak about politics in ways that are directly opposed to the tax laws and how they apply to them. And those people don't lose their tax exempt status. But this guy loses his tax exempt status because, clearly he's not a church. I mean, that goes without saying.
He's committing fraud.
But they aren't they all?
Well, aren't they all fraud? No, I've never. Hold on. I think tax exemption is blood money, and that no church should accept it. But this guy's obviously a fraud. There's no. I would like to see what denomination that he is and what proofs that he has that this is a part of his religious circumstance. Beyond that, I mean, a lot of people and a lot of organizations get the 501(c)(3). Even atheist organizations can be tax exempt if they want to, but I don't think churches should. I think it's blood money. And
there's different kinds of tax exemption though for groups like an atheist group would not apply for the same kind of tax exemption as a church, because you can be an atheist group and be a 501(c)(3), but you can also be an atheist group that is tax exempt, but still is allowed to engage in some politicizing, but they wouldn't be a 501c3, and so your donations to them wouldn't be tax exempt. So there are different levels of tax exemption in the United States. Atheist groups never qualify for religious tax exemption. They qualify for 501c3s, and this guy could apply for a 501c3 if he wanted to, but he's doing it through a church tax exemption. But there's no standard of proof for what qualifies as a church.
Well, I disagree with that.
Let me point out a couple of things. First of all, the Supreme Court did name atheism as a religion in this country, which means that an atheist group could get a religious exemption. They may not have at this point, but they could.
Okay. There are actually atheist churches now. There are atheist churches, and they would.
Yeah, I know. There's actually one in the town that James and I live in. We're going to try to get an interview with the leader of that group. Yeah. But I personally don't believe in tax exemption at all. I don't think that the 501c3 or any other form of tax exemption should exist in the tax code at all, for a couple of reasons. But the simplest is for nonprofit, not-for-profit, etc. Well, if at the end of the year, say you're a church or your political group, anything, doesn't matter. If at the end of the year you've spent all the money that you've taken in on your cause, you didn't make a profit. Because profit is based on, how much income you have versus your expenditures. If your expenditures are equal to or greater to your income, your profit is zero.
Yeah, I disagree with you that there shouldn't be tax exemption. And for example, let's say that we're talking about, for example, like the MS Society or some group like that, where they're raising money in order to give to hospitals that do research.
Then they should give all that money to hospitals,
right?
And
but some of it they give to their board of directors, and their board of directors have to pay taxes on it because that's their wages. But there's no reason why the group should have to pay taxes on any of it. As long as they give it all, as long as it all goes away, as long as there's no money at the end of the year that's like a stockpile of money that they're saving just for the organization. But there's always got to be some money in the kitty in order to do anything with too. So you do have to have like.
Right, but it's about growth of your, like if you establish a charitable organization, and let's say you build up $1 million in the kitty, as you say, well, you're going to pay taxes on that $1 million in the first year. But if year by year by year you keep that kitty at $1 million, then you're not going to pay any taxes because you've got it.
I don't think it works. They don't do it that way, because let's look at your bank account. If you have a bank account at the end of the year that has $10,000 in it, and in 2014, and then in 2015 that bank account still has $10,000, they don't say, well, then you don't owe taxes.
Right, but that's but you're talking about the way that individual people and businesses have accounting is a little bit different. And if a business has like a church or whatever has this a charitable bent where they give money to other organizations, I don't mind there being a tax deduction of some kind for that kind of thing. But I think creating a tax exempt status creates a multitude of problems. One, you end up with the government picking and choosing groups to be tax exempt. You also have, and I honestly, you may feel differently, but I feel very strongly about this. I think that the IRS regulations on speech in churches is a violation of the First Amendment. I do not believe for 1 minute that the federal government has any business telling pastors or priests or rabbis or atheists at atheist churches what they can and cannot say from the pulpit, even if it involves politics. And I know James disagrees with me on that.
Yeah, they don't, because you don't understand law and you don't have a degree like me.
No, it's not about what the law. You kind of. I know you like to be condescending about that.
No, I'm not being. I'm being truthful. I'm being truthful. If you would have studied it, you would understand that they're not.
So you think that telling a pastor what he can and cannot say from the pulpit is not interfering with.
They tell him you can say whatever you want, but when you say
this, but they're holding the tax thing. It's basically a way of doing it without doing it.
Yeah, they're not doing
I think that's what it is. Absolutely,
that's exactly what it is.
But the thing is. But James,
are they doing it?
James.
Are they directly doing
Shut
it?
up for a minute.
Yeah,
It's
dude,
not-
you have interrupted people 7 times. Don't even.
Yeah, I know,
talk to
but
me.
don't give me
Don't even sit here and
Are
talk.
they
to
doing
me.
it?
Are they doing it?
You're
Yes or
sounding
no?
like
The
a
answer is really simple.
presuppositionalist.
It's really simple. It's really simple. Hold on. No.
No,
I
let me
will shut up
finish.
and let you talk if you answer this one question. I will shut
What?
up and let you talk. Are they directly telling them not to talk? Are they stopping them from saying what they want to say? Are they
Yes,
directly doing? Are they directly doing it?
Yes.
No,
The IRS
you're
is
wrong.
doing it,
That's
and the
not- that's
IRS is an agency of the federal government. Now, it's not the way they do it, of course, and we know the politicians have been doing this for the last century, working their way around the Constitution to try and get certain things done. There's no surprise whether you're liberal or conservative. You've seen the Constitution circumvented for one evil purpose or another.
But if there was no tax exemption, if there was no tax exemption for churches, there would be nothing stopping churches from saying whatever they want to say, right?
Exactly.
And
So they're not being stopped. They're not being stopped from saying what they want to say. They're just being told you don't get this tax exemption.
Because they're all afraid of losing that tax. The
But
thing
that's
is
not the same thing as telling them
not
they
every
can't.
church.
You don't understand.
James,
in Michael Land,
James, you
in
said you
Michael
would let me
Land,
go.
in Michael,
So
no, you didn't
shut up.
answer my question. In Michael Land,
I did answer your
Michael
question.
Land-
I gave a direct
in
answer to
Michael
your
Land,
question.
what they do is, if you at any point talk about what they don't want you to talk about, they bust in with M16s.
I
And in
didn't
Michael
say
Land,
that.
they spray everybody. Everybody's
I
killed
didn't-
instantly in Michael's
okay.
fantastic fan land of anti-government
Anyway.
libertarian BS in Michael Land. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'd like to give a little Canadian input here.
You're Canadian. You don't count as this country.
So that you get a bit of an idea of what it's like somewhere else. Okay, there was a time when the churches were very involved in politics and did a lot of stuff in there. And one of my favorite stories, over here in Canada, Liberals and Conservatives, their colors are the opposite of yours. So Liberal is red and the Conservative is blue.
Right.
And so the priests would used to say that heaven is blue, hell is red. Vote red and you'll go to hell. And so that shows you how much they used to be involved. But people, I don't know if it's because they became less religious or what, but now if a church, if a priest or a minister or a pastor were to speak from the pulpit about religion and who they should be voting to, I think he'd be booed by everybody, or people would walk out of there because it's none of their business, and people don't want them to be talking about that kind of stuff because they want them to talk about religion when they go to church and leave the outside world out of it. Yeah. And that's what it's like in Canada.
Except for those three evangelicals.
Yes, exactly. That's why I said they're a very, very, very small minority, those people. And in a very objective way, I will call him an idiot.
Well, and I know James thinks that because the government came up with this wonderful legal loophole to do this, that makes it all good and happy and unicorns. But I don't think that the government should be violating the spirit of the law.
It's really easy. Take the money.
You know what? You know as well as I do, James, that while people like Thunderfoot would love to cite how many billions of dollars churches collect, the majority of churches are small organizations that barely get by as it is. And so the last thing they're going to do is give up their tax-exempt status because, as it is, a lot of them are running in the red.
Don't they need the Lord protect them, though? I mean, just don't take them.
You know what? That's James. Let's not go there. You're just being stupid at this point. I'm saying for running a church from a practical standpoint, I'm not talking about because different theological bents on whether or not God will provide or whatever. But most churches do not have this excess of funds. Now, if the tax system was simplified somewhat, then that wouldn't be a problem. But I do think that having the IRS dictate what you can and cannot talk about, especially since we give tax-exempt status to groups like Acorn and other very political groups, and we don't seem to mind them out there talking about it.
Actually, they do. They went after Acorn because of some things that Acorn supposedly said that they ended up not actually having said, but they went after them for it.
You don't even want to get into Acorn with me because of what they did to us. We actually had an Acorn representative register my 16-year-old daughter to vote in the last election, and then they showed up to collect her ballot because with the state I was living in Oregon, it's all mail-in ballots, and so they got her registered, and then they wanted to pick up her ballot, and they said, "Oh, we'll fill it out for you." You know, so you're not going to get any love from me about Acorn.
Well, I'm not. I don't even. I'm just the all I know is all the stuff that James. What was his name? Keenan? No, James. I can't think of his name. But all that stuff that he was talking about, where he went in dressed as a pimp, and all that stuff. That was all.
I'm not even talking about that. I mean, I know about that stuff, but you know, but my point is that we have plenty of politically active groups that are 501c3s. And so to single out churches and say,
they need to go after all of them, though. Yeah, they need to, if they went after all of them.
Either don't allow any of it or allow all of it. Right. But at the same time, I don't think the 501c3 status should exist at all. I think you could create a charitable tax status for any group that wants to raise money for a cause, be it a church or you want to raise money to research a cure for AIDS. And they should all be treated the same way. And what your political opinions are should not be a part of it. We all know, and you know, that the IRS in recent years has been used as a weapon, and that, you know, and this is not to try and pick on the Obama administration. I'm sure it's been done before by Republicans, but that is something we, you know, should absolutely be standing against. Because when you...
but also I would also point out though that it has been used against Democrats and Republicans by the Obama IRS. When they actually went back and looked when all those people were complaining that the IRS was going after conservative causes, they looked into it to see how many under Obama's IRS, how many conservative versus liberal, and the definitions are kind of wonky. What counts as liberal and conservative, but most estimates said that it was 50-50 or more skewed toward the liberal groups. That they were the ones that the IRS came after more, just marginally, and it just looked like they were going after the Republicans because Republicans were vocal about it, and the liberals weren't vocal about it because it was their president. So
that would be the first time I've heard that, but. The thing is, though, is that because I heard that there were people that admitted that the IRS was being used to target certain groups.
They were, but they were targeting both sides.
But that's irrelevant.
It's just wrong. I know it's wrong.
That the IRS is supposed to be the most impartial part of our government.
I'm not defending the IRS. I would never defend the IRS.
Right. That's why you have all these you have the libertarians and the Tea Partiers out there that are trying to say get rid of the IRS. Well, this just gives them plenty of ammunition for it, because if the IRS is being used as a weapon, not in these cases, but then of course you can make for the evangelicals, they make the argument that the IRS is trying to control speech from the pulpit. You could Al
Capone would have never gone to prison if it hadn't been for the IRS. So.
Well, so what?
They're doing God's work.
Yeah, that doesn't make it all better. I'm sure the IRS has done some good things in their day, but no branch of government should be used as a selective weapon against the people of this country.
Oh, that's absolutely.
And
we shouldn't have an NSA at all.
Yeah, regardless of James's defending of it, trying to silence speech on political stuff is doing that.
You know what? They're trying to stop people from. They're stopping people from. They're taking away all of our guns by requiring background checks and requiring licenses. And
that's first of all. That's
they're destroying our right of movement by requiring driver's licenses. I mean, the government is just crazy, people. It's just crazy.
What does that have to do with
It's just insane. I'm just talking. I'm with you. All the other governments that are trying to stop our thing, like I'm right there with you. I understand, brother. I completely understand. I am right there with you. I mean, seriously. Like for instance, Target is trying to stop my ability to buy stuff from them because they want to give me a discount if I get their credit card. No, I'm right there with you, brother. I'm right there with you. They're all trying to censor us. It's an entire.
It's like when iTunes tried to force everybody to be YouTube fans.
Right.
Anyway, James hyperbole aside.
No.
I'm actually past time when I was supposed to stop. But it's been a real pleasure talking to you guys.
Nice to talk to you, Michael. Michael has to leave, so it's going to. Are you sticking around for a little bit, Losoyo? Because we got just a little bit of show left.
Yeah, I can stay a little bit longer. It just depends on, as we discussed with my daughter. I'll stay as long as I can. I don't
Nicola, thank you for having me. Dave,
thanks for coming.
James,
Okay, so now we're going to go with our glitches, our Christian glitches.
Yeah, we have
let's take a moment and discern the spirits. I remember reading a report, gosh, now it's 2015, right? 5 years ago when the 2010 census came out, they didn't poll sexual orientation, but they did poll the number of non-married same-sex cohabitators. And it was less than 1% nationwide. And that was just 5 years ago. Now, it's up to, they're saying the nationwide average is about 3%. So it is growing nationwide, but it's still less gay people in the South where they believe the Bible than there are on the left coast where they don't believe the Bible. This proves to me that the Bible works. That when people believe the Bible, they promote holiness and they invite the Holy Spirit to rule their hearts. They don't have all of these homosexual addiction problems that they have in places where they don't believe the Bible. And they reject the Bible, and they teach their children in California schools that homosexuality is a good thing, and they celebrate Harvey Milk Day, and they have all kinds of policies to promote that in the classroom. Well, no wonder their population is growing. They're recruiting people into that movement on the left coast. This proves to me that the disparity in that population proves to me that it is a recruitment effort for your children. And thank God they're resisting that in Alabama. I wish the rest of America would protect their children as well as they do in Alabama, which is why they have a lower percentage of children recruited, according to this Gallup poll, in the state of Alabama. Now, I've also read that children of gay couples, if you have two moms, there might be a 20% chance that you'll become gay yourself. Not because you were born that way, but because you're re-educated into that lifestyle. By having two lesbian moms, you're actually increasing the chances that you, the child yourself, will become homosexual. So everyone's saying, oh, you're just born that way. No. It's a re-education effort. Here's my prediction. In 100 years, if we continue to allow this recruiting effort across America, all of the children in all of the public schools, if we don't stop this, will be re-educated that this is a good thing. And I predict in 100 years, 20% of America could become homosexual.
Well, that's just crazy talk. What's his name?
Gordon.
What's that guy's name?
Klingenschmidt.
Gordon Klingenschmidt. Okay.
And not only that, but he was elected at the state. I forget if it's in the Senate or whatever, but he was elected as a state representative.
That's it. Okay.
In his state.
Okay. What state was that, out of curiosity?
Let me Google it.
It doesn't sound like he's from the South. I live in Tennessee, the Bible Belt. I would be very surprised if his numbers were in any way, shape, or form accurate. And that's some of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. I agree. I don't. Yeah. I mean.
Yeah.
Colorado.
He had causation. Colorado. Really? Okay.
Yeah. Colorado House of Representatives for the 15th district.
But not Denver, I'm betting. But it might be Denver. I don't know. But if he made a causation correlation error when he said that the fact that there's more open gay people in California than there are in the South means that the Bible is what caused that to happen. That's a causation correlation error, because he can't know that was the cause. He's just assuming that that's the cause. He made some gross assumptions about why the number is increasing, and then his number where he forecasted it was going to be 20%. He just pulled that number out of his ass cheeks, because there's there's nothing in any kind of literature that would support that. So I don't know where he's coming up with that number.
You're missing the biggest point. He looked. He was checking the stats as to how many people of the same sex are living together. So if you've got two male students who are sharing an apartment, in his books, they're gay.
Oh, really? That's all it was about, was just general cohabitation, had nothing to do with
yeah,
marriage.
Exactly.
I took him at his word that at least they were saying that they were homosexuals.
No.
I gave him that
I'll
credit, too.
I'll play again. Listen to him carefully.
No, don't play it again.
No, I'm good. I'll take your word for it, man. I don't want to. He has to check his watch to remember what year it is, so I'm comfortable with not.
But all he did is the survey looked at how many people of the same sex were sharing the same living space. So if you have two men sharing an apartment, you've got two women sharing an apartment. Back in 2010, 1% of Americans did it. And 4 or 5 years later, when they did the next study, it was 3% of people sharing an apartment. And he's saying that people sharing an apartment are gay.
Right.
You can reverse the script, though. I mean, if I was gay, what I'd say is that same-sex couples are saving themselves for marriage, which is much better than what we see of heterosexual couples. So you can just flip the script on it. Yeah.
But the thing about that, though, is that the real actual reason for that, and again, I'm making a causation error statement here, and I admit it freely, because I don't know for a fact, but it seems more likely that it would be because of the cost of living, that more people are just getting roommates.
If I'm going to, I'm going to entertain what he says, but I think he's full of crap. I don't think the South is anywhere near what people in the North nor the West think. But if I was going to entertain his idea, what I would say the causation is not because we're in the Bible Belt, but because because within the Bible Belt, there's probably a higher likelihood of being stigmatized or being
closeted.
Being shunned. Now, I live in the South. I've lived in the South all of my life, so it's not what people think it is. But if I was to entertain that would be my guess. It wouldn't be because people believe necessarily in the Bible, because I'm sure that if you did research, you could find any number of Christian countries that probably have higher numbers than that. I wouldn't.
Right. And if you look at Europe and the Middle East now, there are far fewer people in the Middle East admitting to being gay than there are in the rest of Europe. So by that standard, the Quran does a better job of keeping you from turning gay than the Bible does, using his own metric. So
can you tell Lusoya why I called this segment the Christian Glitches?
Oh, well, it's because it's because it's Christians acting like they don't understand how their brain's not working correctly. But it's not an attack. It shouldn't be taken as an attack on Christians. It's an attack on Christians who
particular Christians.
I mean, if you want to, again, I'm fairly laid back. It's in the past. It's never. It doesn't matter to me what. I think that's why a lot of people, atheists especially, can have in the past have liked me. I don't. Even if you hated Christianity or what I believe and you attacked it, I'm perfectly comfortable in everything I believe, that it doesn't impact me or anything. And yeah, I mean, Christians say stupid stuff all the time. I mean, look at, what is this, Pat Robertson, I'm sorry, the paragon that man is. So I mean, people say stupid stuff all the time. So I'm not.
Yeah. That's actually an unfortunate thing for Christianity in America today, is that they're the squeaky wheels. The nutcases on the Christian side are the squeaky wheels. So you have Ray Comfort, you have Pat Robertson. And then even in politics, you have Michelle Bachmann, and you have you know, just huh?
I was just say name, insert random name, because there's tons of people.
Yeah,
but
go
ahead.
They're just the ones that put a face on it for everybody, and it is.
It's going to happen. It'll happen with atheism too. See, this is just a people thing. More people are religious, and specifically in the U.S., more people are Christian, and we have a high percentage of people that are stupid. So when people start shifting over to atheism, and we start seeing more people being atheists, you're going to see a lot more people saying stupid things that are atheists. It's a people thing. That's the way I've always.
And the thing is, the title is not saying that Christians commit glitches. I'm just saying that those are people who have glitches who happen to be Christian. That's
that's the only ones we talk about.
Christianity's earned a lot of ridicule. I mean, I understand and I appreciate where you guys are coming from, but I don't think there's anything wrong with attacking an ideology. That's why I do what I do. I think that every ideology should be attacked. I think that it should be able to scrutiny. Anything should be able to be put up to scrutiny, and if it fails scrutiny, then it's not an idea worth having, right? So I mean, I get where you guys are coming from, but even if this entire thing was just to attack religion or attack Christianity, I wouldn't mind that either. I think every ideology should be attacked and should be put up.
But somebody like Gordon Klingenschmidt is very deserving of ridicule.
Yeah, he sounds like a paragon of righteousness.
Okay. Well, anyway, we've gone about 2 hours now with the show. It's over an hour and a half anyway as far as show time. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the show to an end. How's that sound?
Yep.
I dare say it's been the best show that you've ever had Christian on. I just mean
it's the best one we've had Christians on. That's
Yep.
for sure. But it was actually
Absolutely.
It was a good show. It was a good. It wouldn't have gone over 45 minutes.
Especially when me and Michael start going at it. Every time it brings up politics, me and him, it's like we're both right, but I'm on the left of right and he's on the right of right. Like libertarian, everybody should be able to own guns and we have no states right. So it's always fun getting us to talk about it. That's how you get us to fight. If you ever.
Okay, next time we invite them, we just.
It's going to be the religion. It's going to be the politics hour. That's all.
We'll talk all politics. Yeah. So I actually picked all three of the stories that we did today based on two of them. They were all Christian themed because sometimes we try to mix it up. Usually we try to put in some stories about Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism. But I picked three Christian stories specifically because we knew we were having you guys on, and I made two of them Canadian because of Nicole there.
Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I mean, it can be somewhat because since Michael and me are generally moderate, we end up a lot agreeing with atheists in a lot of things what they said. So at least hopefully it was still a good conversation.
Yeah,
and do you think I'm right in saying the way we present our news it can be of interest to anybody?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We get the same hate anytime you do middle of the road. People are going to get upset about you. People like hardliners. So yeah, I think it was awesome. I think Michael is an idiot for insulting dude. He didn't insult, but I'm like, why are we even talking? He wasn't insulting, but I think I was like, what do you think about the story, Michael?
Keep him back on track. That's that he didn't realize that was our guy, but that's even so that's beside the point.
Again, he wasn't insulting. I used the wrong word, but I just
he was fun with him, but because he thought that was a story that we picked up somewhere, but that's okay. Okay, so anyway, that's all for today. Please make sure that you subscribe to the Atheism TV channel. There you can watch the Infidel News for the Damned, where our talented team of writers and anchors present these and other stories not normally covered in the media. In the coming week, the Infidel will rerun today's stories and many more fascinating ones. You'll find Atheism TV at youtube.com/atheismtv. The Infidel Podcast of the Damned is a Nicole SD production. Nicole and I would like to recognize and say thank you to Truth Search, who did the voiceover used in our intro and gave us permission to use music from his song Lied To as our opening theme. We'd also like to thank Losoyo and Michael Losoyo James for participating in today's podcast. Thank you guys, and we appreciate having you, and hope we'll have you back again sometime. Nicole's channel is NicoleSD and can be found at youtube.com/NICOLSD. I'm Gamut Man on YouTube, at Gamut Man on Twitter, and my blog and information on my books, including my nonfiction title, Believe It, You Know, an Atheist, as well as my mystery novels featuring the atheist detective Lupa Schwartz, can be accessed at tinyurl.com/lupalanding. While there, you can sign up to receive my newsletter. Signing up also entitles you to choose one free ebook title from my collection of 99-cent novellas. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
And folks, just keep an eye on in the show notes for a link to Lucio and Michael's channel. Down below.
Bye.
James. Bye.